We'll call regular meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Roll call. With those seated and sworn in, I'm afraid. Michael Kane. Here. Susan Sutherland.
Here.
Steve Huchek.
Here.
And alternates Kevin Fitfall.
Here.
Clint Kennedy. Is Clint here?
No, he's not.
He's not. He's a Board of Ed meeting tonight.
And the first thing down here is approval of. Oh,
No.
you were right. You're right. So you forget that since he's not here, but you're right now. So Michael, thank you. That should be secretary.
But you need to seat somebody. right?
No. I don't.
You
as it
don't?
Turns out, no. As it turns out, the seat is filled with Lauren. We just got a ruling on it.
Oh, no, I meant for an alternate, we usually,
But we don't because we are full.
well, there's four of us.
I know.
No, there's
There's actually five.
there's five. Lauren has been appointed as
Oh,
a
okay.
regular member. It's because she's
Oh, I
not
see,
sworn in
okay.
and she can't discuss, but she is, so there's no
Okay.
vacancy on the within the regular members.
Right.
There we go.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
we had, well, I'll bring that up later, but that's kind of that's why I said that strange thing of and voted and sworn in because.
Yes, though I
Lauren's
heard that one.
in limbo right now,
That's what I understand,
but
yes,
filling the seat. So that's all there is.
but they go back to the fact that they voted her in,
Yeah,
or
I guess so.
whatever they did.
That's what the town attorney has said.
Okay, very good.
What has the town attorney said?
He said that since she was approved by the town council, she is now filling the seat. But she can't vote or participate because she's not sworn in. Something not foreseen, I suppose, when they put together the rules, but
Okay,
that's the way it is.
thank you. You're here.
Yeah,
But you're not.
but they're filling the seat, yeah, sure.
I would call it neither a ruling nor an opinion, given no legal citation for the words that were put in an email.
Well, it is an opinion.
It is an opinion.
It is an opinion. So, and that's all, and that is what we have to go on right now. So until we have otherwise, that's what we have. But you are the public, remember. So first, we'll look for we'll train motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 28th.
So move.
Second,
Second,
anyone have any comments on it?
I had a comment, if I can. You know. I didn't have a chance to, I didn't have, oh. Okay, so page 3, I just have a question if it's where it says in the middle of the page, it says findings.
Mhm.
And then it says meets the requirements of section use. Does that make,
Hold on, where are you?
where it says findings and
Yeah.
then in the second line down the end, there's a section use. And that the application meets the requirements. What's section use? Does that?
We don't have that.
I'm not seeing where you're seeing, I don't know where
Oh,
you're seeing that.
maybe I'm on the wrong.
A second use.
Is that the second one?
Well,
Second minute,
So, right, is this January 28th or is it February 11th?
no, January 28th.
28th.
And it's page 3 of the minutes.
3 of the minutes, yeah.
Okay, so under findings,
Findings, and then it says meets the requirements of section use and that the.
meets the requirements of section 5.1-8I of the zoning.
No, just before that, above it.
Oh,
I
there we
see.
go. Yes.
Does
Found
that
it.
make sense?
No,
no,
Section, oh, right, yeah.
I didn't know what that meant.
no, we'll fill that in.
Okay, there's supposed to be a section number there?
Yeah, I believe so,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Yep,
that's what I
yep,
got.
yep,
I'd
yep.
never seen that before.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
That's one of those optical illusion things. Right, any other
I-
comments?
I have a feeling it's redundant, isn't it?
I don't know. It might be a separate section.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It, because you have the exact same words in the application.
And maybe,
it's the
yeah,
requirement
we'll,
of the section.
we'll get it fixed.
Okay.
That's fine. That was the only thing that my quick read over.
Any other comments? Vote all in favor of approving?
I,
Oh,
sorry,
I-
was I seated?
Mm-mm.
No, you're not seated. Can't be seated.
No, he meant for that meeting,
Okay, well,
but then you have to be seated.
We do not have a vacancy right now.
Yeah. Right. You voting?
It's just completely weird and it's
Wasn't
just
there.
the ruling we have.
No, you don't have to do it.
So was that all in favor? Oh, do you have some?
I'm abstaining. I wasn't here. But unless we have do we not
You're
have a
good.
forum?
No, you
Good,
will.
we're fine.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
We have a
I'm
quorum.
abstaining.
Okay. You don't need to, because all you're doing is,
I,
I just said that.
it's my duty to say that over again, because that's what the person here says. Right, so, any opposed? One abstention. It passes.
So,
Okay.
hey, Mr. Chair, whenever you'd like me to read.
Okay, let me
Just let me
these,
know.
and I just thought I'd bring it up at that point.
Sure.
And now we'll entertain a motion to approve February 11th.
would make a motion to approve the minutes of February 11th.
Second,
Second,
comments on February 11th. Nope. All in favor of approving?
aye.
Any opposed? Abstained?
one abstention.
You know, you don't have to.
Understand, Susan, you have a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to read this motion from Kevin Fitfall.
Read that.
Yeah, come up to the camera. But not camera. This is microphone. Try to be quiet.
I would like to request that the order of agenda items for this evening's Town of Groton B and Z Commission meeting be changed as follows. I would appreciate that we put Roman numeral 11 commission reports be placed in the agenda prior to number Roman numeral 5 public communications. Therefore, 11 would become 5. There's been communication within the town of Groton and commission members that may have a direct impact on the rest of the agenda. If you could also include this request in the final package to commission members, I would appreciate it. Thank you in advance for these considerations. Kevin Fitfall.
Second,
Any discussion on that? Anybody have a problem with it?
I have no problem with it.
And my understanding is that that's just for this meeting, not a permanent change.
Yeah.
Yep.
That, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstained? Therefore, go directly to report of chair. Commission reports, report of chair. I think we'll jump to the pertinent one, since I was copied, like you only got apparently. You copied this? Yeah.
I was not copied on what I believe you just referred to as an opinion.
Oh,
If I could have the floor as part of this discussion.
there you can, here you can.
I'm sorry, is this public communication or is this report of
Oh, this is
commission?
actually report of
I'm
chair, so
sorry.
let me do this
Okay.
and then we'll. You're right. Right. And I was copied. Among other things, the discussion, since I actually raised the question initially, can we seat someone? Can Jeff just come in here and sit down if he'd like to, because of not having anyone sworn in? At this point has not been sworn in, but she has been chosen. And I will read this message that I got from, copied to me. It is originally from Christy D. Kelly. It's the town, acting as the town attorney. This is to Lauren. Good evening, Lauren. I am the town attorney for the town of Groton and wanted to chime in here to let you know that my office has reviewed the appointment process in question and previously opined that such process was in fact proper in light of the town's charter, ordinances, and appointment policy. No further actions are necessary. To that end, the town council has replaced Mr. Pritchard, and he is no longer eligible to participate as a member. You have been properly appointed as a full member of the PZC, and you currently hold the seat. All that is necessary in order for you to commence taking part in the conduct of PZ Commission business in your current seat is your swearing in. I wish you the best in your new position. Should your attorney have any specific questions, they may contact me directly at this email or by telephone. I'll leave out the number. So we received that. So that is our process at this point. That's all mine. So now we'll go to public communication.
No, we have
Well,
commission report.
The commissioner?
Yeah, commission reports. Yeah. The rest of 11.
So Lauren, do you want to start? Would you like me to start?
Okay, no, you should start.
I
because-
should start. Okay. So here's the issue, which seems a little tenuous at this time, is that in the appointments, both Lauren Gauthier and I both applied for the position of a full board voting member. And the town chose to build a new resolution that said that they could appoint someone rather than interview the applicants, which is section 4.7.1. There's also a section in the appointments for the town called 6.3, which they basically show how to move up from a alternate member to a permanent member. And it appears that there is a conflict. This is an observation, right? And I asked both the town manager and a lawyer for an opinion on this, and they chose not to give it to me, right? And so to me, I simply said 4.71 appears to be in conflict with your new resolution and also appears to be in conflict with 6.3, which is the appointments. So what I did was I went back to what we call the CFEPA, which happened in Act 8222, where all of us on this commission have been put into the employee essentially pool of the town of Groton. That's why we have Robert's rules. That's why we're doing sexual harassment training. But there's a double-edged sword to that. And the double-edged sword is that as an employee, I have to be given the same rights as the other people within this commission in any sort of move up, and exactly what is stated here in the appointments calendar. The issue is that I'm also in a protected group. And a protected group, if you've worked in very large organizations in HR, means I am plus 40 years old. And frankly, I'm plus 60. And the other things I'm going to bring up is that there has been a pattern created by the town council, okay? And it appears to go against an observation. I don't have my legal opinion. And I asked that the town for the legal opinion before my lawyer walks into this, that an age discrimination basically says that a bona fide qualified employee has the ability to move up in that same fashion. And you need to interview that employee. Just because you take a resolution that stands in the way as a barrier, it doesn't mean it's not discrimination. It's just a new resolution. I asked them for that opinion. And so they've done that to myself. The problem was I'm only the number 5 or 6 person that they've done a very similar process to. We have 2 problems in this age discrimination. We have what we call a pattern of discrimination. We have 2 things. We have the town council forwarding a motion to approve someone, and this has happened to 4 employees. It happened to 4 commission employees, not all PZC. It happened to Bruce McDermott. It happened to John Goodrich. It happened to Michael Kane, who sits on this. It happened to Steve Hudasek. And what they did is they chose not to second that motion. So by your pattern of behavior, you've broken apparently the federal and Connecticut discrimination rules. And by not allowing Jeff Pritchard as our chairperson in the same discrimination pattern, you have prevented him on a barrier that is a clever Robert rule, but it is a discrimination barrier because all those names I mentioned are all in a protected class. We're all 40-year-old plus white males, right? And I asked for the opinion on this. So my solution was just interview people or tell us what your motive is. I didn't question their motive. If you align, I presume what we've done for the last 3 years, maybe come up with a motive, but I'm not here to do what ifs. I'm here to observe what I see as a pattern of discrimination, and the latest person in that is myself. I work with lawyers every single day of my life within an enterprise organization. I went back to lawyers. I got legal opinions. I got opinions by media opinions on this, and all seem to say it appears indefensible. So I realize why they haven't said anything to me, and they wanted to put, I presume, a position ahead, because it appears that they don't have a defense, in my opinion, a defensible position against a pattern of discrimination against people over the age of 40. And I simply ask that I think you need to set aside the resolution, which is a very dangerous resolution. I said, as both a citizen and having to me, you should set aside that, and all you need to do is interviews. Lauren and I get along great. I think she's a pro-business, pro-commerce, smart person. But the fact is, I'm a bona fide qualified person, and the law requires that you give that person a chance. The problem was the two people on the personnel committee, as they stated within it, within the hearing that they had, is they said they watched the YouTube video of the town and they appointed based on that YouTube video. I don't feel that's a fair process. So my point today is simply to report on the report that I have sent to the town council, to the town manager, to the town attorney, and I have no reply on as far as that's concerned. So that's my comments this evening. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anyone in the public have anything to say?
Are we doing reporting commission?
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
That was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
your
'cause-
commission.
okay, no, I have another report. for the
Oh,
commission.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was asking.
I just wanted, okay, so. For the commission. I was just going over some old notes. Did we ever make a decision about the sidewalk for the Mystic Ambulance Company? Because I think it came up last April. Were we just waiting for the state?
So let me get you a report on where the state is with that project, as well as where the sidewalk agreement is for
Okay,
Mystic
all
River.
right. No, I
Ambulance.
think, well, I was just.
Because it's a 5-year agreement. not
Yeah, it
just one
was, I think
single-
it came
yeah,
up last April, but then we also had one with the.
With across the street.
Across the street, and it was
Yep.
sort of like put in limbo,
Yep,
I think,
yep,
because
yep. Okay.
that's twice something's been put in limbo tonight.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'll
Just
get
if
the
we
dates
just learn,
and get
it
that
just
figured out
occurred to
for
me
you.
the other
Yep.
day, and I was,
Yep.
all right, that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else in the commission? No? Anyone in the public? And if you'll understand, we don't want to adjudicate this case here. So we can,
Mine was an observation.
this is an observation, so
report,
it
yep.
was a good report.
Lauren Gauthier, 31 Boardson Road, acting in my capacity as a member of the public. So I have been duly appointed by the town council. I should say, rather, they have taken a vote to appoint me to Mr. Pritchard's seat. That was about 3-4 weeks ago now. I have declined to take my oath of office as of yet, because I have reservations on my mind, and I don't believe it's appropriate to take oaths of office unless you have a clear conscience doing so. This stems around reported behavior to me by government officials towards Mr. Pritchard. It stems around incongruities in the appointment process concerning Mr. Fiftel and Mr. Pritchard. And it concerns me, as of yesterday, new opinions, I guess is what we'll call them. So according to the town manager, I am not allowed to participate in my capacity as an alternate. I asked for a legal basis from the charter, policies, statute, case law. None was provided. Chair Zod read one of the emails as part of that chain. And I did respond to Town Attorney Kelly and Mr. Burt. Pretty much saying I'm not going to use a billable hour on an opinion that says because I said so, because that's all it says. It does not cite charter, policy, regulation, statute, case law, anything. what the response I received from Mr. Burt, and what I would request of this commission was that the town council declined to seek a formal opinion, and therefore one was not created. If this commission would seek a formal opinion on whether or not that process was duly followed and the appointment was correctly made, I would appreciate that so we could settle this matter. If correct, I can take my oath of office and join you folks, do some great stuff for this town. If not, they can give Mr. Fiftel his fair shake that he deserves under the policy as stated. Thank you.
That's it. Should we just be asking for it?
So if we can put that on the next agenda, that's not on this agenda,
It's
we
not on
can
this
put it
agenda.
on there for discussion if you like,
Correct.
but
Perfect.
I know, thanks.
Now. Back to the list of site plans. SIT 24/0019 hotel conversion. It is on.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah.
Good evening, commission members. My name is Peter Springsteel. I'm an architect licensed in the state of Connecticut, and my office is at 105 Star Street, Mystic, Connecticut. I also have Norm Tebow here tonight, who's joining us virtually. And Norm, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Peter, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Norm Tebow, Killingly Engineering Associates. I'm a licensed professional engineer with an office at 114 Westcott Road in Killingly, Connecticut.
So I don't know, Norm, if you were going to share your documents or if we want to bring them up here.
I can share if they'd let me. I'm prepared to do so.
Should be able to, you should have that ability.
Okay. Share.
So while he's doing that, I'll just give a brief introduction here. We've been before you recently to get a special permit for this project, 3 Gravel Street conversion of a existing office building, apartment, mixed use building into a 7-unit hotel use. And you did grant us that special permit, so we're here to follow up with our site plan approval. And I think I'll let Norm introduce the site and all the site parameters, and then I'll go through the architecture.
Sure. So what I've got on the screen right now is the existing conditions. The red hatched area is actually a pedestrian access. It's a deeded 10-foot wide pedestrian easement in favor of Jerome Properties, which is the property to the left of the screen here. The site is pretty much entirely paved. There are existing parking spaces. As you can see around the building, there's a concrete walk with some concrete steps heading up to the building. And the rear of it, currently there's a concrete landing and a deck and some stairs going up. Peter will talk to you about the improvements around the perimeter of the building that are going to make it handicapped accessible. As you can see, the parking spaces up here are striped, and pretty much everything on the site is not going to change, other than some of the exterior improvements around the perimeter of the building. But no additional pavement is proposed. No disturbance of the pavement is proposed, and a lot of the work is just going to be associated with restriping and then putting up some signage and so forth. So if we move to sheet 2 of the site development plans, in this area, I've noted the improvements that Peter will go through as well. But essentially, we are having a dedicated handicap parking space with the appropriate signage. a ramp that goes up to provide access to the building. There will be a small landscaped area adjacent to the parking area, and also some proposed pavers. This sort of hatched area that you see here is crushed stone. There'll be suspended HVAC units outside of the building, and the landscaping in accordance with the requirements of the fire marshal, the preference. All the mulch around the existing landscaping will be stone mulch. We have a total of 11 parking spaces. There are, it's one parking space per unit. There are 7 units. Also a space for a cleaning person that will use that will park here when they're cleaning the rooms after people have used them. So we require a total of 8 parking spaces. We have 11. The plans have the typical notes that are required by the planning and zoning regulations. Specifically, all signage shall meet the zoning regulation requirements and shall obtain appropriate permits. Call before you dig at 1-800-922-4455 will be contacted prior to initiation of this project. The only actual disturbance will not be on site. There's going to be a new service for sprinklers that will have to be brought to the building. So in accordance with the Public Works requirements, that it will be trenched from the existing water line and extended to the building that's out in Gravel Street. All new utilities, including cable TV, will be located underground. All handicap ramp design shall conform to the ANSI standards or the Town of Groton site plan standards, whichever is more restrictive. All work to conform to the Town of Groton non-contract sewer construction standards. A state traffic permit will be required, or finding of no need for permit before issuances of building permits where development involved over 200 parking spaces or 100,000 square feet of floor area. We certainly do not qualify for that criteria. 7, Connecticut DOT highway encroachment permit is required for all work within the state right-of-way. This is not a state right-of-way, so no encroachment permit will be required. Fire lanes, if requested by the Town of Groton Fire Marshal, shall be installed.
Sorry to interrupt. You don't have to read through all the town notes. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, okay. We've also listed the previous special permit and site plan approvals on this site. I won't go through those either. But I think that's kind of it. We've just got, like I said, the bulk of the exterior work is just going to be restriping the parking spaces, putting in a sign for the handicap parking. No significant changes otherwise for the paved area that is around the perimeter of the site.
Just the can, isn't it?
You want to talk about lighting, Norm?
Sure. No additional lighting is proposed on the site. There is an existing light on the corner of the planting bed here. There will be some building mounted lights associated with just for safe pedestrian access, but no additional lighting is proposed around the perimeter of the site.
Okay, I'll go through the architecture here. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to convert this to a 7-unit hotel use. The building is essentially 3 stories or 2.5 stories, really. So there'll be 3 new hotel units on the first floor and 3 on the second floor, and the 7th unit is up on the 3rd floor. In this drawing here, we've got kind of an exploded view of what we're doing in the entrance area at the back of the building. By state building code, we have to provide 1 accessible unit. So in order to do that, we have introduced a ramp coming off the handicap parking space, which is right here. So that ramp comes up to a landing and you're able to enter this accessible hotel unit right here. We're also structuring the trash in such a way behind a fenced off area here with doors on it so they can roll the canisters in and out of that enclosed area. Landscaping, there's an existing tree in the back that we're planning to keep, which you can see in this photograph right here. And I believe it's pretty much in the location that I show it on the plan. So that will remain in place. And then we'll also take some of the shrubbery that's there and relocate that around the tree in this planting bed right here. These 4 shrubs exist already. The mulch bed exists, but we'll change it out to the stone mulch as Norm mentioned. There will be wall-mounted lighting outside the doors at all the locations. There's a door here. This is the main entrance door here. There's 2 lanterns there. And then there's a mechanical room door in the back. There'll be a light there, and those will be full cut-off wall-mounted fixtures. Architecturally, we've been before the Historic Commission. They have approved what we're planning to do here. There'll be no volumetric expansions to the building. There will be some aesthetic changes, primarily on the south facade, which is the primary facade of the building that you see when you drive up Gravel Street. We basically created a storefront type design and a historic storefront type design to the front of the building with a cornice feature right here. There'll be some siding changes, a couple of window changes. Those have all been reviewed and approved by the Historic District Commission. The building lies in a flood zone, non-conforming in the flood zone. We are going to be performing the work as a non-substantial improvement. In other words, we're going to have to keep the value of the improvements to less than 50% of the value of the structure. And the owner contractor has submitted a cost estimate, I think, to the town. And we'll be doing that again with the building official. But where we've added new mechanical features, these outdoor compressors, we've located them wall hung above the BFE +1 so that they're out of the flood zone. We also have some new mechanicals within the building and our electric panel, which are located back here in this mechanical room. Those will be elevated above the BFE +1 as well. So we are attempting to make improvements here that conform with the flood regulations. I believe we have submitted an elevation certificate, and so you can kind of see where we're at. The first floor is a foot or 2 below the BFE +1. Other than that, I'm happy to take your questions.
Yeah, so Norman and Peter covered a lot of it. The reason that there's so many approvals on this plan is that there are a lot of approvals associated with this site that have to do with 36 to 44 West Main and 18 to 22, even the pump station. So that pedestrian walk that you see, the stamped decorative walk you see, that is actually a bonded item for that separate approval. But because a lot of those easements, I think there's 4 easements across the property, because of those easements, because of that access, 3 gravel's part of a lot of those various applications, various permits. So while Norm showed it, just keep in mind that's going to be completed under that central hall permit. So since you last saw this, again, that pedestrian walkway has been altered just to match what's already been permitted. As Peter mentioned, the utilities have been elevated to account for flood zone regulations. EV charger was removed just to reduce the hazards of that. Minor landscaping has been touched on. Again, the substantial improvement element, we're talking with the applicant to ensure that they stay under that. And then I think if you read the narrative, so I think what came out during that special permit application is that, you know, some more of the business side of things and how the hotel would operate came out. So if you read the narrative, you would probably notice that it was a little bit more robust to explain kind of what this hotel will look like, the business operation, the comings and goings, security with regards to that gate as well.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I actually have no questions on this.
I guess I'm a little bit, the EV charger was removed for safety reasons.
It wasn't required as
Okay,
part of this
but the
application.
electric transformer is at elevation 4.66.
That is a transformer for 36 to 44, if I understand it correctly. Is that, Norm, can you chime in? That's existing as well.
That is existing, correct, and that is for 36 or 44, correct.
Okay, and then I heard underground utilities. How does that affected by the flood? Because it's probably gonna be at,
They're waterproof.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
For the connections.
all right, I mean, okay,
Is that it?
what is stone mulch?
I'll take this one. So as part of some more kind of fire smart landscaping with fire.
Yeah, no, I understand that. It's
Yeah,
just those two
so
words
it's
don't seem,
so it's essentially instead of wood mulch,
Okay,
you're putting
that's what I kind
stone
of
like
assumed. I
river
just
rock.
never
I'm not
heard
exactly.
stone called
Yeah.
mulch before.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's becoming a little bit more standard, at least within 2 or 3 feet from. the
Yeah, I think
foundation.
that was a change to our, somewhere there was some sort of a regulation.
No, it probably will be when we get. the
Yeah,
plans
okay,
together.
all right. That's all. Thank you.
I really don't have anything. I want to find out about what stone mulch is.
I
understand.
We'll get there.
We used to just call it.
Thank you.
Yes. The only two signs you have on is the small one hanging off the building and then right above the door.
Yes, and there's a logo mounted on the wall as well. But I think we have to bring these before an administrative approval, I believe, the signage, no?
It'll be a zoning permit once you
Okay.
get through, as long as HDC has approved it.
Okay,
So is that something that there may be another sign?
No, does not come back here.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, because we love our signs.
yeah, I know.
And then just, I know it came up during the special permit, but the access for the parking, it's gonna be gated?
yes, we did receive an administrative site plan approval for a gate, which is already in place, installed. And the owner has given access codes to the fire department, the police department, some other people, I'm not sure who.
And
Maintenance.
obviously residents. when they-
Yeah, and
reservation
it's
on-
all very high tech. So when you reserve your room, you'll get a code to be able to get into and out of the parking lot.
It's important to note too, that the easement holders have been given codes to, you know, use that gate as well. And there's enough room for that pedestrian easement to access through the gate.
Okay, and we never counted those parking spaces in anybody else's calculations ever. Just check. Right, that's all I got.
Okay, it looks good to me. Just a little detailed question. There's the lantern type lights. You talk about full cutoff, but we've got the lantern type lights on either side of the door. Are they full cutoff too?
Yes, all the building mounted lights will be full cutoff.
That's all I've got. You had a chance to see the motion?
Yes, yes, I did.
Issues with it? Anyone? Anybody? Anything? Okay, I will move. To approve site plan SIT 240019 for hotel conversion, 3 Gravel Street with the following modifications. Any modification to this plan imposed by another federal, state, or local agency shall require additional review by town staff or the commission, whichever is appropriate. An as-built flood elevation certificate shall be provided to OPDS. Technical items shall be, as raised by staff, shall be addressed. Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Passes. I'll make an motion to approve universal site plan for the conversion of existing mixed-use building to the 7-room hotel because it is consistent with all applicable goals and coastal policies of CGS 22A-92 and incorporates all reasonable measures to mitigate adverse impacts of the proposed activity on coastal resources. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think it's gonna be an improvement with that little elevation. So it makes it look like it was always there.
Mhm.
The old Mystic River Inn.
That's right.
Put a fake date on it. No.
With an E after the old.
Geez.
What's that?
Next up is SIT 25-0003 Little Gull Marine Phasing, 6 Casino Road.
Turn towards the commission.
Practice reading upside down.
Got a teacher.
Good evening. My name is Greg Fettis with Fettis Engineering, professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut, representing the owner of the property. Andy Giblin is also here representing the owner representative. This was here, God, what was it, 2021, kind of a mini Mystic Seaport. But what we've realized, kind of starting this development. So we did some of the seawall work. We did some of the, one of the big things was the dredging, kind of without the dredging getting accomplished. Not that the site was worthless, but it was an important part of knowing that we'd have access to the facility. The dredging is 100% complete now, or 98% complete. So we're pretty comfortable, but we realize that this is not with the I guess push towards creating something that was historically accurate. It was going to take some time for each of the buildings, and we, you know, we decided to phase it in 3 phases, 1 for each of the buildings, so we could achieve getting COs after each phase. And that's probably the biggest reason. We think it's going to get spread out over several years anyway, before it's 100% complete. So we basically broke it down into 4 sheets, the first 3 phases, and then the final sheet of the plan set is the completed project. So, and I won't, you've seen all this before. We have specific parking requirements for each phase, and the parking moves around a little bit depending on what's happening with the phase, with the building construction and so forth. So I'll just go through them quickly. Phase 1 is before you. That's the covered boat slip or work slip. And that the foundation is in, so there's kind of water in there already. The docks are all in. And we're proposing to do some storage, porta potties, trash. That's gonna sit in this location, just to kind of facilitate construction and so forth. So that will be the first building that'll get constructed. Phase 2 is the kind of the largest building on the site, which is the storage. building. That's phase two. So again, parking associated with that, the parking requirements, and that kind of storage and restrooms, porta potties, and trash will be located in that screen from the road. Phase three is the final building, which is the work, it's specifically called the boat shop, which also has 1,000 square foot apartment in it. And this is where we would move that, the toilets and trash and storage units across the street in order to facilitate construction of that building. So at that point, all the buildings will be constructed, all the landscaping that was approved will be constructed. Final plan, which is very similar. The only difference would be the removal of the temporary, putting the parking spaces in with the handicap spot and so forth. So that's the final. We do have some renderings also. I think you've seen these before. Could pass them out. There's extra copies if anyone wants to take a peek. There's a couple different. And then we had a painting done, but the best we could do was get it on these little postcard things. Otherwise, it wasn't super clear, but it's kind of they got a couple extra copies here of this, which I can pass out. So they're kind of souvenirs, I guess. You can take them home.
I don't know.
There's no stamps on these?
Yeah. No. Yeah. There you go.
Sure. This got value. I don't.
Anyway, I was hoping to get it a little bit bigger, but there you have it. That's our presentation. It's basically what you've seen before. We've made great strides, even though the buildings aren't up yet. The infrastructure is there, and we're happy to kind of get this thing phased and moving in the right direction with the building construction. Now, if Andy wants to say a couple words, or if you have any questions for the owner's rep, we're good to go.
Okay, sure. So as noted, this site plan was approved in 2021 with all three buildings. The regulations do not allow staff to approve a phasing plan, which is why it is here before you. The phasing plan has been reviewed by the building official. They're comfortable with it. Obviously, this is in the flood zone, and so care will be taken for when each of these buildings come in for building permits. I really don't have anything to add. The phasing plan makes sense. Makes sense that you can't build them all at the same time. So
Okay.
There we are.
Sure.
So has the renderings changed from last? I mean, they seem much more specific or precise, but have they changed from the last time you were here in 2021?
No, I don't think so. I think they're
Same rendering.
Same renders. Those are the same exact renderings we did back. The painting, the postcards are the only new thing.
And I saw that the landscape improvement was there as well. There's no changes in that landscaping either. So this is, if I were just to articulate it, this is just the phasing. I think it's
So
different.
yes, just a phasing and making it all work from a parking standpoint and construction standpoint.
Thank
Make sure
you.
we
Thank
do
you.
everything.
No other questions.
Thank you.
Oh, everything looks beautiful. I just when a job like this is done, you get one building permit?
I think we'll get a building permit for each phase.
Right, there'll be three building
Okay,
permits.
So then I guess my question is, because it does change occasionally, the base elevation, if that changes and you haven't done the building yet, what happens?
Yeah. Got to meet the new maps.
Yep.
Yeah, so it won't affect the storage building or the work, the covered work slip.
I mean, I'm only asking because it does
Yeah.
change on occasion, you know.
The only thing it will change is, and let me just, I need to remind myself. AE, do you remember what it is now?
I don't, but if there are new maps that are
Yeah,
issued by
okay.
FEMA that change the elevation and they don't have a building permit, they're gonna.
Then
then
does it come back to us?
We'll have to see what kind of changes
Okay.
result.
Okay, that's
from
fine.
that.
I just want
Yeah.
to, you know, have it on.
Yeah, so I think the only thing that would get affected by that is the second floor apartment. And then there's a portion of this building that's the mezzanine. I think that's the only thing that would get affected, and it may just raise it a foot or two depending on
Yeah, okay.
the flood zone, but
All right, I'm comfortable
Yeah.
with this. This is fine. Thank you.
Nope, I don't have any questions. I think we gave it quite a thorough look back when, so.
Period of performance, what are we talking?
what was the question? Sorry.
Period of performance for all three phases.
Without kind of pinning ourselves, it's gonna be over a number of years, so it's more than one. Less than a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what.
I mean, 5 years?
Come up here and introduce
Yeah.
yourself. See that?
So it's Andy Giblin, 18 William Street, here representing Little Gull Marine. So to answer your question, I think one of the reasons we're so late is that we didn't want to work on the landside development until we knew we had water at the boatyard. So can't really have a boatyard without water, and that's taken this long to get to that point. So we hope to start on the covered work slip first this year, and hopefully the next couple of years would be the storage building, and then after that would be the boat shop. So I don't want to go on record and say the time, except that we are going to diligently work towards it.
3 to 7, less than 10.
Hopefully. How about that?
All right. Not,
So-
I won't hold you to it.
Okay. And so what I'll leave you with is that the company line is we've never been closer to being finished.
Perfect.
That's fine.
And Deb, I remember when we had this original way back, there was a question of a fall zone of something on the Amtrak tracks.
Wow, I do not remember that. This was Diane's project. I
Yeah.
don't remember that.
But it was something, and I'm trying to, do you remember?
No, you got me.
Yeah.
No.
It was something, well, I don't know if anything on this property could affect the Amtrak or vice versa, and I think we had it resolved, so I don't think there was ever a lasting concern or something. But I do remember us discussing it. And that's it. It looks like a beautiful project.
The only thing that seems to have changed is that, as you mentioned, stuff happens and maybe it's a year, maybe it's 10 years, and I'm maybe not exaggerating because stuff happens. That being the case, you've got this little collection on there that's the dumpster screened by the two Connex boxes, the two containers. And then after it's here, then it moves across on the other side and then it's there. Then it disappears. So in our final plans, it wasn't there, and under a normal construction thing, they'd be there for a year or two, and now they might be semi-permanent, if you know what I mean. They could be there for years and years and years. So it's a minor thing, but, and I see you're using them as screening, but I'm just wondering if it might be more appropriate, since you don't know when you're going to get rid of it, to buy a little bit more fencing, since you have a little 6-foot wood fence to wrap it.
So Andy Giblin again, I think I'm comfortable in saying this is our plan was to sheathe those containers with wood paneling, pine, so that it looks a little bit more like a fence or actually a little outbuilding. And so that's the effect. We do want to represent well to our neighbors, and we realize there's a lot of activity next door. So we do want to be good neighbors, and we're sensitive to the aesthetics of that. So I can commit that we will put some kind of, I would say, natural wood siding on those containers.
I don't think it takes much, but something, as you
Yeah,
said,
I
trim it up.
agree.
And it should have been on the plan. So let's get it updated on the plan, and then I think we're good. Is there any temporary lighting that's also going to be not so temporary because you're not gonna get the whole building up?
So there's two streetlights
Yeah,
that are there now, and they're gonna get, I think Public Works has allowed us to kind of take private ownership of them because we want them to be period streetlights. So those will, I guess, will act as temporary
okay,
throughout the project, the temporary / permanent.
all right. So there won't be any, besides those, there won't be any other temporary lighting that might be there for a few years. That's my concern.
No.
All right. All right, that's all I've got. Well, good. I'll make a motion. Simply enough to approve a 3-part phasing plan for SIT 250003 Little Gull Marine 6 Casino Road. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Now on what there is. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? It passes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Postcards back.
I don't, you can keep them if you like. Memento.
And how about the renderings? Are the,
Actually, this kind of.
I think mine's good.
Okay.
They work
Take
really
that.
well when you.
They're the same from the
Yeah.
original one.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
When it's been something that's really great. We used
Like a little
to, because we used to do that. You take like a
Oh.
little tiny square,
Good.
and then you blow it up. and it's
Thank you.
this Interesting war.
well, I really like it. So
I thought.
the
it
boat, it's a great choice. That's one of my favorite. I wish I had one of those.
got voted.
Yeah. Seems like an old one. It was old, beautiful ones. That's a lot of work.
All right. Well, now we're up to CSP 250008 landscaping improvements and modifications, 11 Park Place.
Good evening, I'm Keith Nielsen with Falco. We're working for Mr. Europe on this project. This is the final phase of the part project where we have a small approval to add topsoil to the backyard, which is going for flooding. We've also gotten some permits to rebuild and cap the existing mortar stone seawall. And the third part being this landscaping wall that was necessitated because of DEP permitting criteria under certificate of permission. So we've prepared an application drawing and I've got some photographs. Good, everybody?
Yeah.
See that okay?
Yep.
This is the highly professional colorized version of the project. We're at the far northeast end of Park Place in downtown. There is the existing stone wall around this. This was a boatyard 150 years ago, and this was the boat launching slip. And there were projecting piers on both sides of it, which is why the nature of the project, the property is the way it is. The westerly 2/3 of the shorefront, actually it's about 50%, is has reverted to tidal wetlands fringe, which I've colored in this light green. The easterly half of the project basically is the stone wall, and this is the formal lawn. Here are some photographs of what this site looked like in the fall. We had on November 14th quite a high tide, and it was not associated with a storm. It was associated with a severe low pressure system following a cold front. And so the waters were higher than normal. And so I just wanted to get that documented because between coastal storms and sea level rise, this is going to happen more and more through downtown Mystic. you're going to have more and more projects like this along Gravel and Pearl Street. And raising the road is going to be an issue for the town. And we're just probably one of the first projects that's really addressing it, like it is with sea level rise. So the drawing that I prepared is really trying to show you that here is the existing seawall. This is what is going to be raised a foot, a DEP permit. And the new landscaping wall that we're putting behind it is going to be 2 feet above the existing wall, but only a foot above the new capped seawall once the DEP part of the project is done. The owner had originally intended to do the lawn regrading and the wall capping on the seawall at the same time. But when we didn't get it done last year, he asked me if we could go ahead and get this landscaping wall done now. So that they'll do all 3 of the projects at once. And he is a landscaping contractor, so he knows his way around the subject. In the drawing, we've also shown the installation of silt fence around the project. This is similar to the silt fencing that we had put in the original lawn regrading project. We have shown the stockpile area. A lot of this work will be done by hand, probably by Rob Murphy Masonry, if not done by Mr. Yerke himself. And Mr. Yerke will do the concrete, the landscaping wall himself. And so it's a very simple, straightforward project. The photographs that I've given you show pretty clearly the need for this work. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
First layer from staff.
Thank you. Again, the site's located in the coastal area management zone requiring CAM approval and review. The proposed project is a modification of the approved coastal site plan from 2023. As was mentioned, there have been 2 Connecticut Deep certificates for permission for this work that have already been received. This modification proposes 215 linear feet of landscaping wall on the landward side of the existing seawall. The applicant states there are no known or foreseeable adverse impacts to the existing coastal resources. And the project site will be completely restored and once completed, better address runoff and flooding issues currently impacting the site. The ENS, the review of the ENS meets the requirements, and it also helps to protect the tidal wetlands there that were mentioned before. And I think that is about it.
Sure. So if I could start, I just want to ask the town at first. So we have a boat launch there, correct?
Yes, there's a small boat launch, like
Adjacent to the
adjacent to it. Yep.
Adjacent to the site. Is that boat launch marked with signage?
It is, yes.
Yeah. Have you, which of course, this is a difficult analytic. We have the town on this other issue as well. But do we know the extent of the use of that boat launch? And the reason I asked this was we did short-term rentals. We had some significant issues with people coming across private land on contracts. When if you really look at it, it's just down the road. It doesn't appear that in this particular case it will harm the landowner. I just want to make sure this project doesn't have any prevention of what is there present.
None whatsoever. And that was a big piece of the original approval,
Right.
was really looking into that. There has been, because even in shown in the November storms, there has been some erosion. Now, this is not on the site that we're talking about.
Right.
There has been some erosion on the public access, and the town has come in, Public Works have come in and actually put more stone in there.
Right.
But there are no impacts whatsoever with this proposed work on the public access at all.
Okay.
Now, this is not, again, this is a small boat launch, so we're talking
Yeah,
canoe, kayak,
that's
not a motorized vessel, so.
Right. And just to the applicant, in that picture, you show water within the lawn. How deep was that?
It was just a matter of 4 inches or so.
Okay. You're just the first. Yeah, okay, thank you. That's all my question.
Oh, okay. So it seems, I mean, it's obvious that you got to do something here. And this may not be a question for you, but like when we do these kinds of projects, what happens when water obviously comes in from behind and comes from the backside, and now we've built a wall that's going to hold it?
Well, as you.
And then I
see
guess,
in the detail here.
Yeah.
We have this graded down to the landscaping wall. This project, we can, provide provisions, drainage weep holes through the wall. The, part of the reason we're generally reluctant to do that is because that lets the salt water in, which
yeah,
we really don't want.
I mean, I worked with, I didn't work with him, but Rob Murphy on another project in the city, and what he used were big, like giant concrete railroad bridge blocks. And I don't know, the DEEP designed it, but the water actually was allowed to come through and retreat, but I just wonder what happens like to the neighbors and if water sits in this thing, because obviously everyone's gonna have to do this at some point.
It's, water is not gonna sit behind this.
No.
The stone wall is not impermeable. It's got cracks and gaps. and
It's
so on
dry.
in the stones. No, it's got mortar in it.
Yeah.
But in a lot of areas, it is more like a dry wall than a mortared wall. And the water will not stay ponded behind this wall.
Okay, I mean,
It's a lawn, right?
It's
It's a long,
Yeah, so I mean, it'll percolate down.
well, that's what I want to make sure of, is
Yeah.
that, not even that it's just like how you have one, it's like, at some point in this world, we're gonna have to figure out, like, the whole shoreline, it's gotta be either, fortified or we retreat, but I don't know if anybody's thought about those things yet.
Yes.
Yep.
The short answer is yes.
Do we have an answer?
Yeah,
No.
I don't know what,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of a boatload of
And
money.
let me add one other part, because I think this was a part of the first approval too. So that was one of the questions with the first one about, what was the thought in terms of looking at the numbers and the grading and whatnot. And from the first project, it was estimated that if there's flooding in the back, so say fresh water from storms and from rainstorms and precipitation, that basically easily about 90% of that precipitation is gonna percolate back into the ground. So you really shouldn't have a buildup of water behind that.
Yeah, or, you think about wave action, right? Breaching that
Yep.
wall or something else.
And that happens.
Scouring and everything else. that happens.
It's only if I take my whaler at like 40 knots past, you get that wave. I'm just saying,
Uh-huh.
right?
I guess it's that, for me, it's looking at the long.
I know, you're right.
Thank you, that's all.
No, I don't have any questions. It's instructive though, seeing all you've been through on this property for these 2 times you've been in here. So thank you. I hope it's successful. So.
And we appreciate the town's support. Staff has been excellent to work with.
Mm.
We appreciate.
As always. Just, my understanding, the seawall is being rebuilt 2 feet higher,
Being rebuilt.
Oh, it's going to be.
1 foot high.
1 foot
Yeah.
higher. And then just by the pictures here, it looks like the existing fence is, I don't know, I want to say about 10 inches below the top of the seawall.
Yeah, it varies a little bit, but
And then-
6 inches to a foot.
And then this new wall, how high is that?
It's going to be a foot above the 1 foot increase in sea wall. So it's going to be 2 feet above what you see in that picture.
2 feet above what we see in this picture. And then this fence is gone?
2 feet.
I'm not sure that, that fence is for Mr. Yerkes' dogs.
Okay,
To keep them on the property. I have a feeling the fence will be reinstalled. And so there will be a very slight grade increase as we get close to the landscape in the wall. That he's probably going to plant some very nice perimeter plants in there. Not doing anything right now because he doesn't want to do anything until the wall is fixed.
understood.
And he's going to. His plans, I've seen some, talked to him a little bit, seen some sketches and so on. It's going to be a neat looking place. It'll be
Okay,
a real eye catcher.
okay, that's all I have.
And just kind of for the record, you're done?
Yes.
So just for the record, when you said the new concrete wall will be 1 foot, your drawing shows it as 2 feet, by the way.
Right, but what I don't show
And it shows it
here
as
is
the-
the DEP permit for the cap.
No, you have new granite seawall cap, DP license. And it shows the top of the cap. 2 pieces there, and then the wall is clearly 2 feet above that.
Okay. Well,
So is it 2 feet or is it
it's
1 foot?
1 foot above the new cap.
Okay.
2 feet above the existing wall.
All right, so
1 foot.
that dimension is probably not correct. Now, that's why I was kind of, based on 2 feet, I was going to start to say, does this have to go through Historic Commission? Because now we can really see it. 1 foot, it's a curb.
And I can make sure that, you know,
Okay.
as part of, for the tech items, so we can make sure that that's clear on there, that it's clearly only 1 foot above the seawall, the
Okay.
rebuilt seawall.
And the construction of it surprises me a little bit that the foot coming out, the 3 foot sticking out has, 6 inches of covering or something like that instead of being buried. Usually it's down a few feet,
Yeah.
but this is an odd construction. But it's stamped, so I guess I'm not going to argue with your engineer. But it's but I would question it if I were you.
That's kind of what Mike asked though, right?
Pardon me?
That's kind of what Michael asked. How does it drain in that fashion and that design?
Well, that does look like a catcher, but looking at the grading, I
Yeah.
don't think that's an issue. I think very little would end up there. And because of the grading, you can see the
Yeah.
topo lines on here.
Yeah.
Where this wall is, there's just not going to be much there, and I would think it would percolate down.
I don't
Shouldn't
know.
have- And if it doesn't, then it'll go away in a short period of time.
I don't know if you all remember, but the grading plan starts back in here. And there's a ridge, a very slight ridge created in this old pier area. And the water will drain in this direction from both edges, both sides of the ridge. The bridge will be slightly higher than the.
Well, it's going to be caught by this, not the stone wall. It's going to be caught by the concrete wall. That's
And
2 feet high, and it's going to catch the water. So,
And we've got a pervious base under
All right.
under the wall. And it will allow the water into the ground right behind the wall, and the wall will be the transmitting.
Okay.
Feature.
As I said-
Fall back.
okay, so it's not our purview to second guess the engineering, but I kind of see it and I wonder, is this going to be subverted by the drainage of the water going underneath it? But just to give you a little alert there that somebody saw it. But as far as we're concerned, I guess I wouldn't have any problem. All right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. So I will move. Have you seen the motions? Have you seen the motion? I'll move to approve the coastal site plan application CSP 25-0008 landscaping improvements modification. 11 Park Place with the following conditions: existing tidal vegetation seaward and proposed erosion and sediment control shall remain undisturbed. 2, any modification to this plan imposed by another federal, state, or local agency shall require additional review by town staff or the commission, whichever is appropriate. 3, technical items as raised by staff shall be addressed. Findings: the commission hereby finds that the application as modified is consistent with all applicable goals and policies of CGS 22A-92 and incorporates all reasonable measures which would mitigate adverse impacts of the proposed activity on coastal resources. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? It passes. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, one thing they don't show you is what is that here. And from
Don't
my
take a water
experience,
close
there's another
to
one.
it.
And then
It's
that
so
class, they
small.
put this one.
It seems
outside,
like
and then
it won't
that.
look like this.
You know, so you don't, I mean, it.
Very
no one's
relaxing.
gonna know if they open that up. That's true.
We're up to old business. Zoning regulation amendment, preliminary discussions, multi-unit development in the IM zone.
Hmm.
Good evening. See everybody. For the record, my name is Bill Sweeney. I'm a land use attorney, partner at Hilton Partnering in London. Thank you for having me here tonight. As some of you may recall, at the end of last year, I appeared before you in an informal workshop to discuss some modifications to the regulations governing either mixed-use industrial district or IM district, and specifically to allow for multi-unit dwelling development within that district, and to really allow that district to truly be mixed use. As you know, your regulations right now allow single family and duplex homes, but not multi-unit dwellings, which is sort of odd in a mixed use zone. We talked at some length about the nature of the existing IM district, the amount of land, good land that's been developed already, but a variety of sort of smaller pieces that have some constraints that exist, and that there's interest in doing housing at, and may actually be better suited for housing that could support the economy and support manufacturing uses as well. So at that meeting, we had sort of broached the concept, and we got a very positive response from the commission. Chairman Pritchard had asked me to work with Deb Jones and actually drafting regulation to make sure that I bring it back to this commission before we formally submit it. So that's why I'm here tonight. But there was two real issues that came out of that. Was one is we were looking very narrowly at allowing multi-unit dwellings within the IM. There was some desires, particularly from staff, of expanding that to allowing a variety of different multi-unit development, or at least categories of uses within the IM zone. And then there was also some comments from the commission about making sure that there was buffering between such developments in the IM. The last thing we want to do is provide for apartment or multifamily development in the IM and then create conflicts with adjacent industrial uses. So those were the two sort of issues that we were asked to take a look at. Does everybody have a copy of the proposal in your package?
We do, yes.
All right. So just quickly, I'd like to go through it with you, and just obviously I want to open it up for, again, in an informal discussion. The first part is modifications to the table of permitted uses. And if you look under the industrial districts, the IM, you'll see some highlighted changes in that. So again, expanding the scope of the types of multi-unit uses or the categories. We are proposing, rather than have it prohibited, active senior housing would be a conditional use subject to special permit. Cottage communities, again, expanding the sort of the categories of different types of residential uses would go from prohibited to being a conditional use. Multi-unit dwelling, which is what my client, particularly Dallas Patterson Corporation, is looking at, would be go from prohibited to a conditional use. Multi-unit dwelling conversions, that's taking existing buildings and converting them to multifamily multi-unit dwellings. That would be conditional, subject to special permit. And then we also, your staff asked me to also modify home-based businesses where when a major home occupation is involved. So that goes from prohibited to accessory conditional. And if you see, the choices that we made are consistent with other uses, other permissions for other zones for those particular categories. So it's nothing really out of the ordinary, just expanding what you're allowed to do within the mixed use industrial district. If you go to the second page, there were some sort of housekeeping changes that needed to be changed. A lot of the adult senior housing community, the cottage community, the multi-unit dwelling and the multi-unit dwelling conversions, those all required us to add the IM as an eligible zone. So we put those into the text of those conditional use requirements. And then finally on page 3, specifically to address the buffer area, again, we have under section 8.1-6, the buffer area requirement. We are adding an additional requirement when buffers are required. This would be under 8.16B, subsection 4. In an active senior housing, cottage community, multi-unit dwelling, or multi-unit dwelling conversion use on any lot in the IM that is abutting or directly across the street from any other lot in the IM, a buffer is required. And so again, that addresses the concern of allowing for residential development in the IM, then sort of creating problems. So we have this buffer requirement. And then in 816C, we've actually defined what the buffer width would be. We put it at the highest buffer width that you allow. You have, right now, you require 30 feet of buffer between industrial districts abutting a residential district. We're all at 30 feet. We're asking for a 30-foot buffer for, again, active senior housing, cottage community, multi-unit dwelling, or multi-unit dwelling conversion uses in the IM, abutting another lot in the IM. So again, this will be an internal buffer within the zone to make sure that you don't have conflicts between sort of the mixed use components that we're trying to promote. So I share these and put these together with Deb Jones. She gave us some feedback. She suggested that we come back to you and show you where we are with it. See if you have any other additional concerns or questions. The only other thing I would add tonight, it's not specific to the text amendment, but when we did appear before you at the end of last year, it did garner a lot of attention. The media picked up on it. We did get contacted by both the Conservation Commission and by Groton Open Space, and specifically over the Downs Patterson parcels that are on Route 117. So we had some really positive conversations. Mark Woolman, the representative of my client, had some really positive conversations with both the Conservation Commission and Groton Open Space. And while it's not specific to this text amendment, we were able to talk and identify areas of the Down Patterson site, especially on the eastern side toward the state-owned land, which are very rough, have high, very steep topography, but have some really interesting pine forests on them, which are really not developable pieces of land, but would be really great to put into permanent open space. And so again, it's not part of the text amendment, but it started a dialogue with some of the conservation people in town. And if this regulation change was made and Down Patterson moved forward with a residential development on their properties, there's some really great opportunities to expand the open space holdings of the town on that property in the areas that aren't really suitable for development anyways. So with that, I'll end there. Again, I'm just at Chairman Pritchard's request, I've come back, sure to share you where we are and just to see if there's any additional comments or thoughts that you may have or things that you think we need to address before we make a formal submission to the commission. Thank you.
I don't have anything to add, but can answer
Okay.
questions as they come up.
Sure. I'll start. Attorney Sweeney, were you aware within the special meeting we had last week on SIP of potential sewer going up Route 117 as part of the infrastructure plan?
I am, not because of my work for Down Patterson, but I've worked for other developers who have interests in that sewer line. So I know that that is a long-standing desire of the town. I think the sewer certainly improves the feasibility of development for both industrial and residential. But most importantly, along Route 117, that's your water resource protection district too.
Right.
So to be able to have sewer really addresses the concerns that we might have with septic disposal. Septic disposal is not ideal, particularly for a larger.
Not allowed.
Yeah, well,
Not for multi-unit development.
and the entire property is not in the water resource
Correct.
protection. There are areas of it that are outside of it. But to have sewer is really important to open up the ability to do the kind of development at a density that's required to make it worthwhile economically.
Yeah. So my second question is, when I look at the matrix, essentially, you've just mirrored some of our other districts here, right?
Right.
So you haven't really changed anything. You've just made the IM potentially inclusive. That's how would you position that in the same way?
That's exactly what I did, and I did that on purpose, so that they're really, again, when I make a text amendment, I think about what your comprehensive plan is. Comprehensive plan is not your POCD. It's
Right.
your zoning regulations and your map read together. And so when I make changes, I want them to flow with what you have already. So that's exactly what I tried to do there.
Yeah, seems extremely analogous. And then I guess just my last question, because we touched on it a little bit, is that we're in an in Groton, we're in an admirable position as far as affordable housing. We're in compliance, right? So, but also is, if I looked at it after that point, it's also kind of limiting in some ways. Like in some ways, if we're looking for affordable housing, there's no one pressing Groton for affordable housing.
Correct.
So do you think this ability for us to open up the IM in this way, does that open up Groton in a more positive light for developers? And if so, how? And therefore, potentially we could get affordable housing without having to go through, state law or a state push to make that happen.
Yeah, so you've met your threshold requirements under 830G, so.
That's right.
A developer can't use 830G. More importantly, you can't use 830G on industrially zoned land. That may be something you're aware of or not. But that's an important limitation. So allowing multifamily development at least provides the opportunity for projects that may have an affordable component.
Right.
I do a lot of affordable work in other towns. I don't do it here in Groton because you guys have a lot of affordable housing already, but when I go in front of the town council board wants here, I always get the question, is there affordable housing built into this project? Because there is a community desire to try to continue to build on it. There's a big problem with affordable housing right now. And I speak from the clients I work for, is the cost of construction is so high right now. I'm working in another town that I'm supposed to be in later this week, that it is almost impossible to, it's a challenge to break even on 80% AMI units right now for rental. It's a challenge. So if a lot of towns that have not met their requirements have sort of a set aside a requirement for all new multifamily housing, 10, 15, 20% of the units must be affordable. They put that into their zoning code. And what I'm finding is that those 10, 15, 20% are like a negative in the overall pro forma because they make no money.
Right.
And they're really difficult. And then you have towns that are saying, well, 80% isn't enough. 80% is basically what people were paying for market rate 2 years ago because of housing prices. We want 60%. We want 50%. Now you're talking about a significant loss.
Right.
And you can kill a project that way. And I've been talking to a lot of towns about this. And don't even get me started on the issue of like ownership. Like if you wanted to build condos for home ownership and make them affordable, you can't even make 80% work right now because of housing prices. It's a really bad situation. It needs to be addressed somehow in the state. I think there's some opportunities if you at least allow a method for multi-unit dwelling development in the IM, that you may get some 80% AMI units as like a portion,
Right.
5%, 10%, 15%. And I think it's always good to redo your housing stock. One of the problems that happens in urban centers where you have hit your threshold, and you see this in New London, the Groton to some extent, definitely up in Norwich, Connecticut, for example, is their affordable housing, they've got more than their 10%, but nobody's building any new. And so that affordable housing gets older and older and depreciates, and the conditions get worse and worse. And there's no new affordable housing being built. There's no retrofit. There's no renovation of it. So there's an opportunity, I think, at least by allowing some more multifamily, you might be able to encourage a developer to say, hey, could you do 10% of this, as affordable? And in fact, the state is now providing some grant funding. I know over in Stonington, one of my clients who's also looking to do some work here in this town is working to a state financing program to provide, the state's going to cover the gap for them so that they can provide 80% AMI units in the development they're doing over in Pawcatuck.
Okay.
Yeah, just a related question.
Yeah,
Sure. Go ahead, Steve. I'm
Doesn't-
done. Thank you.
Doesn't, supply and demand come into this also? I mean, if the market is literally flooded with
There's a reason
additional housing.
right now, a 2-bedroom unit in Groton, is $2,200-$2,300 a month. The reason is because the demand is so high. I mean, it's just basic supply and demand curves.
But
So
300
even-
more
even
units.
more market rate housing.
Yeah.
Increases supply, addresses demand, and drives prices down. So, my opinion, at least for what it's worth, and leave it to your planners to tell me what they think, but you need to think about, for a housing strategy, you need to think about a housing strategy that covers the diversity of socioeconomic needs. What's your housing strategy to get luxury housing, to get market rate housing, to get workforce housing, which is like 120% AMI, and to get affordable housing? And how do you get a good mix of that to meet the needs of the town? That's sort of a planning role rather than a zoning role. So I know you guys work on that kind of stuff, but that's really an important thing. One of the great things about Groton is, and I tell this to all my clients, is you can come and meet with Deb or John Reiner, Dave or Bryce. This is a town that doesn't turn away housing.
Yeah.
Most towns in the area, they don't want those people in their neighborhoods. It's still an issue. This town never has done that, and that's why this is a good town to invest in. That's why you see me come up here as much as I do, because people want to invest in Groton.
Sorry, Steve, I ceded to you. I'm done. Thank you.
I jumped on you.
No, it's great. That's it. Finished it. So
I'm good.
So we're just like doing the theoretical kind of stuff, right?
It's an informal.
Yeah, I know. So that's what I want to sort of, because I get everything. I'm a landlord. I see
Yeah.
it out there, you know, and I would say that 50% of the people who rent can't afford it. So like the need for affordable housing is like way beyond what we're providing.
Well, it's particularly because other than New London and
That's
Groton,
it.
the other towns
Yeah,
don't want.
and then people are forced to live in places where the schools aren't good or.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place that it's affordable, and it's sad that we live in that kind of a situation, to me. But it's what it is, and I just wonder too is, like we build all of these apartments that are luxury, but then are we driving away the people who work at electric, not driving away, but not providing housing for people who work in the yard at Electric Boat? Because,
I think you actually touched on it.
No,
Was
the
that,
more housing you provide.
oh, I get it.
But that goes to a larger strategy that certainly you want to think about that workforce housing. And you sort of want, and you want to think about the housing for the people who make below the average
Yeah.
median income. Like, what's the town's plan to do that?
Well, right now, our plan is we put them all in the city in Branford Manor. That's where it's affordable. And so we meet our threshold, that 10% or whatever it is, but we sort of, it's a little disingenuous in that it isn't shared by the whole town. It's shared by the city and in particular, my neighborhood, and it's fine. It's, you know.
What a lot of towns are doing, and I don't mean to get too far off field. I know you have other stuff in here to matter, but a lot of towns are now, I talked about this sort of a mandate that they're putting in their zoning regulations, not for a particular district.
Yeah.
But like town-wide is we have a 10% requirement given to us by the state. If you're gonna build new multi-unit housing in town, 10% of your units should be affordable. You hold the line. You don't go down toward 10%. You at least hold the line on what you're providing.
Yeah, well, I see what I would like to see is where you are able to, and maybe you need to put in more units. Maybe instead of 40, you need to put in 60 in order to provide
And
10 as a.
meaning we'd allow for more density.
Well, I'm just suggesting,
Or
you know.
you would relax other zoning requirements. You don't really use density in your regulations, but you could.
Right.
You could incentivize.
Well, maybe if you said, we would like to have a 10% increase in luxury housing, but 2% of that would be affordable. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
It's something for you guys to talk about strategically.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a
In terms of the
carrot.
P O C D,
Yeah.
probably not
Yeah,
in this
okay.
amendment, but absolutely, we've been doing
All
focus
right.
groups, that is everything we're hearing.
Okay.
And I'm going around, I think I said it last time, I'm up in Rocky Hill, up in Windsor, and we're modifying industrial park regulations to allow
Yeah, yeah.
multifamily.
Yeah.
These are towns that haven't hit their 10%.
Yeah.
So they're saying, yeah, we want you to come in and invest money. Could you also set aside some of the units for affordable to help us get up to our 10%? And if they're writing it into the regs, so their regs say, you can do in our office park, an industrial office park zone, you can do multi-unit development. But we want 10 to 15% of the units to be affordable, to meet the state's affordable.
Sure.
So it helps us.
What is affordable? So that's 80% of
Oh.
the
Yeah, there you go.
poverty line.
You didn't show up
That's
to
the
the
question.
community
I mean, it's
conversation.
still- it's still a
The
big
units are people for households that make 80% of the average median income for the metropolitan statistical area that the town is located in. So for this area, it's Norwich, New London. And so there is HUD publishes every year these charts. Where you can say, you can look at what 80% of AMI is, and that's the amount that the household can make to be eligible for a unit. And then it also sets the rent. And the rent plus utilities can only be 30% of the income that household makes. So it sets the rent for them. So you calculate who's eligible, and then it actually sets your rent for that unit as well.
Okay. Sort of like
That's what you gave.
rent control
Right,
at
exactly.
a
Yeah.
zoning level.
Yeah.
So
And
just
it's
one
deed
more,
restricted.
one more question.
Yeah.
You talked about some of the area, I know in this area, there's the pitch pine, I think it
Yep.
is up there, right? So some of the
That's all.
area around here is pretty
the thing-
important.
The thing is, like you said, the pitch pines up and preserve the big property you see, but they're on the ridges going to the west, there are still pitch pines there.
Yeah.
As well as there's such deep ravines that probably the best vernal pool in Groton
Yeah.
is in
They're
there.
wetlands.
actually.
Really
That's
small.
So I
Yeah.
guess this is
That's
my
right.
sort of theoretical, once again. And I believe it was you when we did the Star Street application.
Oh, yeah.
Did you do that? You were there, okay.
Faithful, but yeah.
All right, so when we did that, the other attorney, I don't remember his name.
Mr. Slater.
Yeah, so he had suggested, and when I read our subdivision regulations, it sounded like that's the way, that we could actually ask for more than 10% of the, do you agree with that?
Your regulations are written to a minimum of 10%.
Yeah, that's what I read.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
So
I guess I don't want to,
yeah.
but
For
is that,
subdivision.
is going more than 10% something that you might think would be agreeable? Or
I think that-
workable?
Yeah, I don't think it would be set, I think it would be set on what the actual nature of the, because it wouldn't be a subdivision. We would do
Exactly.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
You're mixing things.
But
Okay.
what I
Yeah.
think we would do is, we talked about with conservation and ground open space, they're like, well, can we see your plan? We don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't paid like literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to put a plan together, because we can't even do it by your zoning code.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that we have these pitch pine areas with steep ravines and basically undevelopable land.
It's all ledge
And
anyway.
it's perfect, and it would
Yeah.
add to the existing protected land, so we said,
Mm.
yeah, we're not gonna use that area, we'll put it in conservation, we'll convey it, we'll work and partner with you on that. What we wanna do is survey the property, get a wetland scientist out there, we wanna map it, identify the areas of the pitch pine community, and then be able to draw an area. It may be 10%, it may be 8%, it may be 30%, I don't know. But I know it's up there, and we wanna make sure that we identify it properly.
That's all, that's my,
It's more of a site plan issue too.
You're up, Sue.
I just have a few things. I really love this zoning redo. I mean, it's like we're getting back in our old zoning commission or something. Yes, I looked at the map, just for starters. I think it's good to look a little more closely at what we really have. And you see, I marked it up a little bit, but to me, when you take out the fact, well, it looks like there's tons of industrial land. In fact, the town of Groton has 148 acres there. That's the transfer station and the beautiful Golden Dome. And part of it's an industrial park already.
Right.
It'd be pretty difficult to put something, I mean, sure, it should be developed however they can. So you really got the transfer station here, that's developed. So you got more of these parcels here, and we all know Holstein's parcel has some challenges too, access, et cetera. And then there's other open space that I've put in green that wasn't on the map. So it's an interesting area, I think, for sure. So with this in mind, let's see. You really have 366 acres to work with, okay? And this is not taking into account that they are, you know, all kinds of great steep, craggy things. But so it looks like you have tons more than that, but you really have 366, including very rugged lands too. So when you really get down to it, you're really getting to a smaller, you know, sort of big chunk of land. And to me, this is one of Groton's really last big potential areas that's still available to do some really smart development in, you know. So much else has been preserved or it's been built or whatever, or it has other challenges. But here, I think particularly Downs Patterson, you've got at least some chunks there. I mean, Downs Patterson has what, 141 acres, of which some of that is a little challenging too. 74 acres, another big parcel behind it. So, and then you have the Holstein property. So I think it's really important to get this right. because it's kind of it's a really good opportunity, you know, if we can take advantage of it. And with that in mind, I was looking at the way this table of uses was, and to me, it's a little bit different. We say, yeah, it's industrially zoned, but it's not industrial. There's no industrial things going on in the potential part that we're gonna.
Light industrial, isn't it? Yeah. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, mixed use type
And I
thing,
think
but
we had a difficult time knowing what that actually
that's right. That's not
is,
very well,
right?
yeah,
It's not
well defined as it should be.
clearly.
True. But just bear with me. You have a lot of housing next to this, of course, but it's kind of like more of a, I guess, blank slate in some ways too. But it's, when I think of industrial, I would even
have
think
that.
of something like the industrial park, yeah, for example.
You have the industrial park and maybe the transfer station, you could say, is
Yeah.
like an industrial type use.
Right.
That would definitely be more industrial. And, but when you get over here to where we're gonna be building, there isn't. And a
Well,
lot
you've
of
got the
these,
Health center and you've got the hotel.
right,
And their development pad there, and then
Yep.
you've got a lot of undeveloped land.
And you've
Right.
got Legnos Boat Industries also is
Yep.
along that area, definitely
So
industrial.
which one?
LBI, Legnos Boat Industries, it's further.
Oh,
up.
yes, but that's a
117.
tiny little thing, right?
I don't know, it's, there's a couple of
But
buildings
yes,
back in
no, I
there,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Which one does the Navy?
No, you're right. There's other
Yeah.
boat things there, but I don't know, those are pretty, there's no housing that close to those
Mm.
things. But these things are kind of, you have these big chunks and it's not like you're really the midst of all residential or anything. In fact, you're really in the midst of all conservation land and the streams, the reservoir, all that sort of thing. So I think one thing to consider would be, and I don't know if it's possible or not, but since, and this was a concern, I think before we were talking about data centers from by Ghost and others, is it possible to have higher standards to make sure what's draining off of these big chunks of land and going, in the case of Downs Patterson, right to the reservoir? Or in case of the other ones is probably going down Fort Hill Brook to Long Island Sound or something like that. Is it possible to make sure we have a little better standards so we're really getting as good of a, flow off of
I
that?
think
as
if you
possible?
want to do that, you want to look at the entire WRPD as opposed to just
Uh-huh.
the IM zone, just this small
Right.
piece. I mean, if you want, if
Right,
that's what you want, it's probably appropriate for the entire WRPD.
Right.
I'd actually want to take a look and see what are the current standards, because they
Right.
keep tightening up. And they've gotten pretty good.
yeah, I know, I know, a
So-
lot better than they used to
so
be.
maybe, maybe it's not as frightening as we're thinking to see
Yeah.
if just.
Maybe we
because-
could, I would like,
Mm.
even staff's opinion on, are we really where we should be on all that too?
Mhm.
And because to start thinking about toying with a WRPD, that's a big project, so. I
Well,
want to
it
get
was last
something.
updated to 2017,
Oh,
right? So,
Yep.
yeah.
I guess too is the question, then it might be like, what do other? Because our reservoir is in a really heavily used area, right? And so what do other towns, do other towns have the reservoirs and
Right.
I-95 crossing them?
You have the strictest requirements that I would think.
Really,
Yeah.
because that's what I was gonna say, is what do other towns do and they don't?
The only thing I
Central
would say,
Park.
there's a couple towns that have aquifer protection districts
Right.
that I've worked in, like
Yep.
Groton, it has its own set of regulations. But the WRPD in Groton is by far the strictest that I worked. I worked from Enfield to Danbury.
Well, I would say, I know that my wife has a friend who did her dissertation was on the reservoir for New York City.
Yeah.
And so, they essentially bought that whole water protection district and, that's why nothing goes on in the county.
I think it's certainly a good idea to take a second look at it, see if there's things that could be tightened up or changed, but I can tell you definitively, it is by far one of the strictest requirements. Of any type of water resource protection regulation that I work with. Like I said, I know Clinton's got some stuff for aquifer that I've dealt with. Waterford has a protection area over Jordan Brook, which is similar to your water resource protection district.
right.
So those are the two communities in this general area that do a lot, but I think Groton, in my opinion, is still the top community in terms of protecting surface waters.
But just for clarity, you're talking about like industrial uses, right?
Well, I'm just, the more I understand you're not gonna have heavy industrial here, but if you had some more of the industrial type things that are allowed.
Yeah. I mean, our
That's my concern.
table of permitted uses, I think, with our last go through with it, we were pretty selective in what's allowed from an industrial standpoint, no gas stations and that kind of stuff.
Right. no gas
But,
stations.
But from a housing standpoint, we would definitely require sewage, all the
Surface,
state of the art
surface
stuff.
water detention and
Yeah.
treatment. I'm working on a project that you'll see in a couple months, or hopefully sooner with Deb and with Bryce. Housing project in your WRPD, and we have to go through a whole, bunch of, hurdles that show that we are not gonna have an impact on the water, on surface water.
Yeah. Well, maybe just if you could say, is there anything we should be doing or not doing? One of those types of questions. So then just going down the list of residential type things. One question on the active senior housing. Is that the one we did for Fairview? Is that a different classification?
It is.
Then should we change this to the one we did at Fairview? Or should we have both in there?
That was a residential life care community and it's not under the residential section of the table. Frankly, I just don't remember.
The IM you wouldn't be able to do a residential life
Is that right?
care community. I don't believe that's listed
No.
in there. It's not something you'd be allowed as an IM.
But we could add it, couldn't we? Why not? I mean, why shouldn't we? Because Fairview
Right,
seems
if we're
to be
looking
a-
to expand the commerce within the area, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah, exactly.
What is that? Is that like what Fairview is?
Yeah,
It's this-
Fairview
Yeah.
is residential life care as opposed
Yeah.
It is allowed, actually.
Oh, it
It's
is
already allowed by special permit
in the IM.
in the
Oh,
IM.
okay.
Yep.
Oh,
Someone was smarter than us.
Look at that.
right?
Okay, good.
Yep.
So we already allow.
Some residential there, that's correct.
You don't have to.
Well, because they say a lot of seniors, they want to age in place and all
Yeah.
that. They don't want the active senior anyway. But we could allow for both. I don't know. I think why not make things broader? Now, the next one, I have a real problem with cottage community. Why on earth are we talking about something that you can bill on a postage stamp when we've got over 300 acres? And this is kind of one of our last chances to put up some more intense type buildings.
Because it's up to the builder, though, if they want to utilize or developer like that, they have the ability. It doesn't seem like it would fit. I agree with you, Sue, right?
No,
I think
it's
it's bang
really
for the
up to
buck
us.
though, and,
Yeah,
proper utilization of the land.
yeah.
But
Yeah, that-
I have no position on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
If you don't
exactly.
think it's appropriate, there may be smaller parcels, particularly along 117 that maybe it's appropriate for, but
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't, it's not something that my client's interested in.
I don't think it would, or I would not be in favor of encouraging that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just don't, I don't think we should have it in there.
Why?
period.
What is the,
Because there's other places you can put that.
It's just. not-
oh, you're trying to get density.
Right,
Right.
it's not very.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
And especially since that's one of the other things I was going to mention is that, yes, we absolutely want the density because of the proximity of the area that we were talking about, the west corner of all of this has great proximity to center Groton, which is going to become a thing once we have sewage.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
always surprising that it didn't become a thing. It has all this room to become a great node.
Yep.
It's only because
That's right. And
That's
so if
right.
we fix that, which is on the CIP, then
Yeah.
and get there, if it gets funded, then we're kind of on the road a little bit. And that makes it sense to have that density in that northwest corner. The other places, not so much.
But we're
I'm
doing the
happy to
whole
take that
thing.
opportunity out if
Yeah.
that's the-
And that's, so we wanted to take that out. The other one would be just like going to Sue's kind of chart there. Maybe we want to just, as part of the conditions, zero in on the proximity and what part of it. I don't want to come up with another zone. But,
Well-
but in terms of why we want it allowed in this zone is because it's got a proximity. So,
Another zone where?
well,
The area.
in the northwest corner,
Oh,
you say,
yeah.
oh yeah, this is an overlay and whatnot.
Well-
We want to avoid that.
I mean, at this point, there's no sewer on Flanders Road or on
Right.
117.
Right.
Yeah, it can be extended though to Dallas Patterson, there's sewer for the
Mhm.
hotel right now, so
Mhm.
it's a short,
Yeah.
it's a short extension, it's not extension to Center Groton, but there's it would be a short extension that could be within the pro forma of the developer to pay.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so I would argue to take that out, the cottage community.
Cottage. I could,
Yeah, and likewise going, you're gonna love this one, likewise going down further. Dwelling 1 unit, dwelling 2 units. And also home-based business.
Definitely would, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay, conditional now.
no, but still, you don't want, to me, it's like, what's the focus here? You know, this is supposed to be a big, nicely designed.
But keep in mind, Hazelnut Hill Road is in this zone.
Right.
Yeah, I
And those
understand.
are all
I
one and two
understand.
family,
Yeah,
structures.
I know.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I think it.
Oh,
the building
because of being
side,
non-conforming.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then
I
the
think that-
home-based business, we get a lot of applications in apartment complexes. Somebody
Oh,
wants to
okay.
do cottage
Okay,
baking.
all right.
So
You're
I
talking me
just
into.
think it makes sense, yeah.
Okay. So we should take out the dwelling 2 unit then.
No, I don't think so.
Because
that- Again, it's conditional, it's an
No, it's
existing
okay.
conditional use.
Right,
Sorry.
right. And the condition
Because
is
we
that
don't
that
wanna
the
create
lot has to be
non-conformance.
in-
Right.
Has to be in the same configuration as when these regulations were adopted. So you can't do a subdivision of single-family homes or subdivision of duplex homes.
right,
But if you have an existing lot, you can put a single or a double.
That's
okay,
correct. That's
yeah,
correct. And I
there's-
think it's important to protect that. The last thing you want to do is the unintended consequences to some poor property owner that all of a sudden finds out that the lot they have is now not conforming.
Yeah, because
And the
there's,
expansion of it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
right.
there are empty lots on Hazelnut Hill
There
Road.
are, there's a
And you
couple.
might have a
there are.
two-family or a single family there,
Yep.
and somebody comes in to do an addition, and like, yeah, your use is not conforming, you can't expand it.
Yeah.
no, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
And we're
this
not
afternoon.
seeing cottage communities anywhere
have seen-
anyway.
No, I know we're not seeing
And
them anywhere,
I
but
think
still,
restricting them won't
Yep.
have an effect anyway. And there are, the
Exactly.
terrain is difficult. Maybe there is a parcel over there that has difficult terrain that has just enough space to try something like this out.
To do it, that's requested.
And it just,
Yeah.
no, I know.
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely
There's no
on.
market.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready for this one? This is one I always like to bring up. Why not go higher? Because in a lot of, a place like this where you aren't exactly next to a lot of housing, et cetera. You're closer to pretty high mountain, but it's what, 75 feet would be the maximum, I guess. In this, and
It's pretty high.
well,
How many
I
stories?
know I was from Stanford. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Even the apartment, yeah.
We don't want to be stamped.
Is
I know, I heard that.
is there any pressure on us to go higher than that?
I just think-
I don't think there is.
No, but I know there's no pressure, but it's kind of like, this is something kind of new for us too. Do we have, is there anywhere that's done this, that they have a really good design standard or something? They said, boy, we took this stuff, it was supposed to be industrial and blah, blah, blah. And we found that we could go up to 90 stories here and it worked out just great.
Yeah, but
I'm
I
just
think
saying.
you want to be careful, like,
Yeah.
for industrial zones are going
Yeah.
too high, because you're promoting like things like smokestacks and like.
Oh,
air
because you'd
bubbles.
allow that, yeah.
I think you want to be careful of that, and
Yeah.
just knowing southeastern Connecticut, you go over, first of all, if you go over 4 stories, you change your construction type. anyway.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
So the
Exactly.
costs.
That's
are
true.
Already out of
Yep.
control.
Yep.
You go to steel frame construction, so it goes,
Right.
blows everything. That's why all the apartment projects you see are 3 or 4 stories.
Multiple
But-
elevators.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it's all steel then.
So
And
Yeah.
You're gonna, it's already expensive, construction becomes even more expensive. But I think also there's general dislike for buildings at that height in this area, in my experience, like even like downtown New London doesn't let you go more than 7 stories.
Hmm.
Like, that's just like,
Right,
that's. Obviously Connecticut's not Stanford, but I actually agree with you. I don't have a problem with it, but probably something that members of the public may object to. I would be concerned about.
right.
that.
And
Which
if
is
you
something-
ever were interested in doing any kind of incentivizing of affordable, I think it would make sense also to leave some height in your back pocket, right? If you wanted to incentivize to go up, if you included X amount of affordable.
Well, the
Right.
problem is,
I think
like you
there's
say, the 4 stories and then your costs go crazy, but that's why Stanford, if you're going up 20 stories. And you have a view of the ocean, which we have here, you're talking about
Six
big
stories,
bucks.
6 stories.
Yeah. But,
That's,
well, the cost. I keep
Then,
saying,
then from what I'm hearing, those units at the top of the building are gonna be the most expensive to build, and so then you've gotta get the rent from somebody to pay for that. right?
Well, you sell them.
I don't
So
think,
that your affordable housing kind of goes out the window.
I just don't think there's a need.
No, I don't-
There's a
No, no, it's
preference to it.
okay.
I mean, it's going back to, I,
But
Always-
the idea of trying to create smaller footprints of development.
Right.
And build,
That's
and put
true.
in more density.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's
That part
absolutely-
I like, yeah.
That's the main message here.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you.
I just like always to test the waters, Stevie, when all of a sudden like 25 or more stories added onto our
I mean, right
regulations.
now, there's an upper limit to how much housing anybody would build. Some point, there
I
would
don't
be
know.
too much and then you can't rent them. You know what I mean? It's just, I mean, we're not there yet, but it seems like it's self-limiting.
To go.
Exactly.
Good.
I can tell you, you can't, because it's, if I get what started today, if I said I'm gonna build 300 units here in Groton, I'm looking at a year before I have all my approvals,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at 24 months to build.
Yeah.
So I'm 3 years out to getting my first tenant. If I
Mhm.
started today and I had the land already selected, so it's just, and if you look at the deficit we have with EB, I mean, we're so far behind the curve, like, we're never gonna catch up to it. We're always gonna be chasing that until they stop building subs. That's my opinion for what it's worth.
We'll stop building 2 subs.
Well, last but not least,
Then we start repairing, sorry.
Yep.
I'm not, I don't think we have good design standards here yet. I mean, I don't think have we really rethought this whole thing?
We don't have design standard.
Yeah, you do right there.
Well, kind of.
Design, no, it is design
It
standard.
says the words, but.
And it's, that's, the only thing I questioned was some of the buffers. I know everybody likes buffers and everything. But is it ever possible to go down 5 feet here and there or something like that? If somebody could take another look, a good look at this.
I'd love to see more flexibility in your buffers.
Yeah, but why
It's
not?
a- It's a challenge. Every
Yeah.
time I have a project that has a buffer and then you run into some obstacle because of topography or the way the site lays out, your buffer requirements are very, very strict.
Good, yeah. Well,
Although
to
there
that,
are options, you can install a fence.
Yep.
And have a lesser buffer. So there are some options that are built in.
could we have some flexibility even in the regulations? and
There,
stuff?
there
They are
is, there
flexible.
is. You all get to decide. If you don't think 30 feet of landscaping is appropriate, you can accept a fence and a berm without the landscaping.
Well, how can we do it so we can actually put the building out a little bit or something?
When the building goes higher, does the buffer grow? It's the
Yeah.
same buffer, that doesn't matter.
Which I have a little problem with, but sometimes it's impossible. to do.
It just
Well, yeah.
seems like
Yeah.
there should be some kind of a triangle that you
Sure,
sort of
I agree.
put in there.
I was just gonna say for the 7 stories high plus
Mhm.
buffers.
Yep.
So it's an area outside of Philadelphia. My family actually lives around there. Fort Washington is not historic. It's just big roads and turnpikes and whatnot. And it's oddly dense for what it is.
Hmm.
And there's not much over 6 stories. It's a lot of 6-story developments, huge parking, huge. They've really got their act together there with cleared, there used to be farms there just 20 years ago. And so it was a perfect place to build. And there was just no pressure to go higher. It was Philadelphia. You could build as high as you wanted. Nobody wanted to. That was like the golden height was 4 to 5 stories. With stores underneath, actually, because they have the commercial underneath. They got some perfect things.
There's actually research that I just came across that has like that kind of golden, area.
Sweet
of-
spot.
Yeah, that
The
sweet spot
yeah.
of making things work. I'll have to pull that up and maybe we'll,
Yeah.
if this height conversation keeps going,
You
we'll have
also have
to.
to have, you also have that enough critical mass with units to
Yeah.
support retail.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah,
All right.
that's right.
Yeah.
Made is they're like, oh, we want mixed use, you have to
You
have
have to have-
retail,
Yeah.
but you don't give them the ability to build enough of a critical mass to support the retail
Yeah.
that they'd be building.
Mm.
So
Well, even there, the retail that's underneath it isn't supported solely by the apartments above, even though it's probably
you have to
1,000.
look at the search.
That's right. And it's
Yeah.
huge, even though there's another 1,000, everything everywhere, but it's Philadelphia.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested in that article. That'd be good. I have an article on parking from the Wall Street Journal for everybody to,
Yep,
It's
I've got it in
just-
my office. I'll pull it up.
just a hoot.
Yeah,
Anyway.
send it out.
Yeah. Which is parking's another thing. Are we all set with parking? I mean,
No.
or could we reduce the amount of parking that's required or?
So Actually, when you adopted these regulations, there were reduced standards.
Mhm.
For one bedroom, it was 0.75
Hmm.
stalls. And given our lack of public transportation,
Right.
it didn't work and developers wanted to build more, you know, to accommodate visitors. You know, in a one bedroom
Mm.
unit, it's entirely possible there are two cars associated with it.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, if we had real public transportation, yep,
Yeah.
get rid of it.
Not gonna hold my breath.
All of my major developers have occupancy numbers.
Yep.
for Developments, they know based on their market research, how many cars they'll have.
Exactly.
And
Uh-huh.
for towns that have reduced parking, it's always higher than it is.
Yep.
Because of just what I was talking.
Yeah,
And
right.
what do you do?
So we try to get it approved for what we need to
Yeah.
work.
Mhm.
You know, the operational requirements of the project sometimes exceed the zoning requirements.
Right.
That happens more and more in towns that have reduced their parking. I always think that it's, you know, like I'm suggesting, I'm working on a project in Stonington right now for some new regulations that developers should justify the parking they provide. Because a lot of developers have developed the same building over and over again, or very similar building. They can give the commission a parking assessment from a licensed traffic engineer saying, this is what we know, we have similar projects, we know how much parking we're gonna need, to meet our compliance needs. Be great to have that kind of flexibility in a record.
What do you think?
But again, that's probably a good idea townwide,
Yeah.
you know, not necessarily
Not for this
just
town.
for
Yeah.
this zone.
Oh, no, parking's a whole
Right.
separate subject too.
Or if you
Yeah,
Put the
Do
parking.
a lot of
under the building.
interesting.
Well, we have, well, that's the.
Well,
The cost with that.
Yeah.
yep.
Okay, that's all I had.
Where you get your-
Just, two more quick ones. Sue touched on a couple of the ones that I was thinking about, but, when we're talking about abutting neighbors. And, you know, we have to do this dance where we gotta look at everything that's permitted in that zone. And take the worst thing and put it against the most mediocre thing and say, you know, is that gonna be compatible 30 feet away from each other? You know, I mean, that's what you have in 30 feet. I
Yeah,
mean,
so I use
that's
the
literally
largest-
from me to
I
the
use the
wall.
largest buffer that you have, so the largest buffer right now that you require is between industrial districts abutting a residential
Right.
district, that's 30 feet.
Yep.
If I took that same, the highest standard, the highest requirement you have, and I said, okay, in IM zones, when you do one of these residential uses, you now have to internally buffer 30 feet
Mhm.
to another use. I mean, could that be increased? Sure. I mean, it's arbitrary, but I tried to pick the strictest standard you have already.
Yeah, so it's not that it's, you know, bad off but my knee jerk is, I'd like to look at all the good stuff and all the, you know, worst stuff. And just see how they would match up. And again, we have to think not just about your project. Every
Oh, without a
place,
doubt, yeah.
Yeah.
It applies to the entire district.
yeah, every place. And when we're talking about, you know, new sewage going up, you know, is there gonna be true industrial things going in those areas? And, you know, what could be the compatibilities? So that's just, you know, something to think about.
No, that's right.
Okay.
But I think where you really have the problem of abutting residentials with the Holstein property. You don't necessarily have it in your property as much by any means, because you're up against the rocks for one thing. And then you're also have I-95 is down there for that other property. So it's not quite as bad, but anything we do to be a little more flexible, and of course, we can always see how it goes and change and all that stuff.
Seeing how it goes, I'm not in favor of seeing how it goes.
Well, you know what I mean, if we agree on the
Good planning
standards.
is, good planning and
No,
good zoning
after
is
good planning,
to
you see,
anticipate the worst case.
we like to tweak things if
I'm
it
a
makes
big fan of
sense.
flexibility.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Flexibility you can give the developer. Hold the discretion in your hands.
yeah, exactly.
Hold the discretion in your hands, let developers dream and
Yep.
different things. The worst thing possible are towns that say, oh, we don't like that. We like the Euclidean 1950s way of zoning. These are our regulations. We do not change them.
Mm.
We do not deviate. Develop your project within these confines, no, and don't ask for anything special. Those are the hardest towns to work in, and they get the worst projects.
Well, if you think of anything else, or we should be flexible.
Unfortunately, I don't think I'm retiring. Probably gonna see me.
No, I meant in this.
I will.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Well, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
I'll,
Keep it
I'll
coming.
regroup with my client and we'll be back.
Great,
you again.
okay, appreciate,
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
So we're up to election of chair.
I would like to nominate Sue Sutherland as chairperson. And my reasoning is just because of what we've seen recently. I want to give her commission expires at the end of the year. And I want to give her all of their support and you know, I saw what happened to myself and to Jeff, and I think that I want to, you know, just support her or in her for the next year, see what happens.
Oh, I see. What did she say?
The end of the year.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah,
Yours
no,
is
a
up
few more months,
A year from that.
a
So,
year from now, exactly, so. yeah,
you know,
that's it.
I don't know what, I would just, it's but Al, I have 100% absolute respect for what you do, and
Absolutely.
I just feel like we're under attack.
I'm a little involved with, but I will second that, but now we discuss it. I mean, is that the reasoning you want to go behind it?
Oh, I'm doing it also, I mean, there's a lot, I'm really interested in the PLCD, I think and it's gonna take a lot of time, and I'm extremely busy, but I'm willing to commit everything it takes, because I think that's the number one thing we have going, actually, and that's not just me doing it, it's all the students, you know, I mean, ideas and all that stuff. I think that's gonna be a fun, great project. It was nice to be on the selection committee, because I thought Horsley Witten was gonna deliver a really good product, so. And we'll have a lot of good ideas to keep adding to it, I'm sure. This is a great commission, you know, great experience. That's why it's unfortunate to see the way things have progressed. So,
Can I have a point of order? So can I provide comment and not vote, or can I provide neither?
You can provide comment.
oh,
Yeah, you can't vote. but-
Can't vote.
I can't vote.
Yeah.
But you
Understood.
can comment, yeah.
I'll let Steve go.
Well, I was curious because the normal progression is to,
yeah.
you know, bring up the secretary and stuff. And you're an expert at a lot of technical stuff.
That's right.
And there's, you know, administrative stuff and then there's technical stuff and you're good at the technical stuff. So, you know, we don't want to have that sacrifice, especially on this commission, the way things are going. So that was one of the thoughts, but, you know, I'm with Mike saying that everything you've done so far on the commission and as acting chair has been, you know, excellent.
Mm,
So.
And deserving, I mean, it's,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. No question.
Can I just make a correction? I'm just noting that Lauren is no longer here, so there is
Okay.
a vacancy on the regular members if you
Oh.
want to
Ah.
appoint
She
Kevin.
made it out.
Sorry.
You're right.
Oh, so now I'm like the deciding vote here.
Right?
So it's up to the sitting chair.
If he wants to
Yeah.
appoint you.
Well, I will see
Yeah.
Kevin.
Okay. So
That's-
Mike, can I say my thoughts? So
Oh, yes.
so my thoughts is, I'm actually, you know, I always thought that I work for the best of the best. I was paid to be the brightest guy in the room. And I have to say, working with everyone on this commission, and yes, are we being upset by motive? I presume we are, right? But I also think, and here's where I'm waffling, I think both Hal and Sue are both great choices. We're not gonna end up with a bad choice there, you know? So I will always, because you all have longer qualification and better qualification specific to zoning and planning than I do, that I'd love to see where you sit with this motion. And I will follow up, because both you guys would be great. That's my thought.
And I also say that Steve was a great chair of zoning when I first joined that.
You're asking where we stand?
Well, and we're gonna vote here at some point.
That's right. That's
Right.
can there be co-chairs? Yeah, you gotta have one
Yeah,
chair.
I'll take a vacation.
That's kind of what we do, you know. And so I honestly, I am okay either way. I am kind of okay, so as long as I seem to have a great, you guys give me the voice here to
You're the main guy.
put in stuff,
Yep.
so I can either do it by leading or do it by second. And, you know, take it over the technical end. So either way, I'm okay with. I understand the longevity thing. But you're not insulted if it doesn't go.
Yeah,
for me. I don't think.
I was like really kind of didn't wanna
Yeah.
it to be that, because I have so much respect for everybody. I mean, I can't tell you. I trust everybody on this commission, 100%.
We have to have a pretty good record of the cumulative years just with us four. Maybe not Kevin as many years, but how many years you got, Mike?
22 or 23.
22 or 23 on the planning commission?
Yeah.
And Hal, you're the same way?
No, he's Mike's here, look down here.
Not, yeah, but not that much.
Not that much.
It's probably
Like 18,
18.
19. Yeah.
Cause I'm only 90 since 94. I think it was.
And Jeff was on this one. I don't know what he was
He's
probably
got 20 some.
4, 25.
What's the RTM?
Too. It's just,
Yep.
I don't know what, I feel bad, but I don't, I feel like I don't know what.
Well, in the business, we used to say, you're looking at a team here that has, 150 years of collective experience. And, this is probably 100 years easily, of collective experience.
Well, just on,
Yeah.
well, like what Kevin's experience is in value, it's.
Oh, and then in industry.
Yeah, no, it's real, It's
Absolutely.
people who are,
And that it
and
came in.
diversity too, no, we
It
can't say
came
that,
in
right?
big time.
It's a tough word these days.
No, but it's, I think that it's a
Coming from
different,
directions.
we're not, I'm not an engineer. But we have engineers on here that I can depend upon, and.
And tech people, during the data center thing, Kevin was involved.
Couldn't
So
have been
anyway-
better. Yep.
We died.
I think the Noang Tower was okay too. I'm just saying overall. I didn't think it was necessary, but
And not to digress. the
Didn't
whole
make any
thing
difference
was
for
the
Jeff, but
antenna.
I think that, being.
It's okay, because I was
the
looking
chairperson-
through the minutes and there's nothing. Okay.
It was
That's,
the antenna that's
Yes.
gonna go up. In
Yep.
the mic, yeah.
yes.
Yep.
I think that makes it more significant if she were tried to be removed.
Oh, is that what you're thinking?
Well, I don't know what, I feel like we need to sort of support the person who's done a really good job, and we need to keep her on here, and
I don't think that part follows. I think
no,
we're all. gonna
Unfortunately,
shut-
the
I'm gonna
track
shut-
record right now is that we felt we had a qualified chair and he, through a lack of a second motion, which is a clever Robert rule, was removed.
That's right.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
right.
clear.
I think if that follows that.
Yeah.
That wherever any of us sits doesn't save us from anything. So that part I.
okay,
don't think it's-
that's reasonable, I suppose. I I know that they can't, that I was also,
Right, we came that close.
targeted for removal for.
Yeah.
Who knows what, it was never.
We're never
discussed.
clear on that.
Well,
And actually, I was too several times
Yep.
for
We all
different
were.
reasons,
Yeah.
but because things change, politics change.
yeah.
Yep.
Maybe they just kind of look around the room and say, want somebody else, which they can do.
Well, that's,
The position is for 1 year.
Well, less than a year, but at this point.
Yeah,
right?
that's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go vote on
Been moved and seconded.
it. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Sue?
Aye.
I,
aye,
Aye.
aye, aye. Oh, I said it, I didn't, sorry.
It's you.
Thank you. I'll do it. Thank you. I appreciate your confidence and trust. And don't ever hesitate to tell me when I'm messing up.
you don't mess up much, so.
But you have to learn how to read a topo map.
Hey, I remember that one. That was a great discussion we had. We'll have to go back that one.
So as of this moment, it's you.
Oh, I knew you were gonna say that. Now what do I do?
Referrals. No, housing units. We have a list of housing units.
Oh, yes,
Right,
thank
that
you.
was- That
Thank
was for
you.
information. There's
Yes.
no action required.
Right.
Michael had asked for just a list. So that you've got the list, and then Bryce put together just mapping so you could kind of see where it was.
I love the map. That did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of the maps shows all the areas where housing is allowed.
Scroll down.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
housing is allowed without, by right, without
Right.
special permit. And then another one shows the neighborhoods.
So that's the one that shows, and I apologize, the way it printed. The blue, the inland blue is gonna show, actually, no, this one's the.
Yeah, that's neighborhood, yeah.
This one's
Yeah.
the neighborhood one. So approved or permitted housing units, with the delineation of different neighborhoods. Added some notes if you got a chance to look at it today around subdivisions and kind of assumptions and things like that. But you can see along the distribution. The question around ADUs specifically, where are we seeing them? We're seeing them listed.
Right. Yeah.
And that's, I think, an interesting part of this map.
Right,
Um,
makes sense.
as well as some of those multi-families that are scattered,
Hmm.
obviously.
So just in
Yep.
total, what's the total there? 800, 300,
Yeah.
700?
32 ADUs.
Yeah. So 1,200
Since 2018.
since 2000.
Yeah.
And the chart, the spreadsheet that you.
Yep.
you made, that was.
Yep.
Um,
And of course, you're not showing the new ones we've just approved recently.
They're on there,
Yep.
Fairview.
Are
and
they?
They are.
No, I mean, for example, the ones that works, like there's that one on Gold Star that's coming along.
That's
The
not
ones
approved.
that
That's not
are still, that are
Yeah.
not approved,
Not
but they're in the
approved yet.
works, yeah.
Right.
So there'll be a lot coming in this year again. That was
That is true.
The whole
point, yeah.
one on Prospect and they approved. but
All right.
Not yet, but
It's in there.
you will see it,
Okay,
I think.
so, but that's not here.
It should be on there.
Should be on
because it's
there, yeah.
approved.
Well. Will be that. Yeah.
No, that's.
No.
Oh, up there, I'm sorry.
Here, but-
Let's get the railroad line mixed
Yeah,
up.
there's. Families.
Wouldn't it be that one? That green one?
Okay. Oh, you're right.
And I was,
That's
okay,
it, that's it.
I was as precise as possible
Hmm.
with some of these,
Oh,
especially the
no.
ones that were unaddressed, right?
Right.
No, that's good.
But if you'd like to see, I can real quickly show you. Specifically, the multifamily, where they lie in the zoning, obviously. The zones that allow multifamily, so that's really where we're seeing them, is in those zones.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good analytics on it. And it's almost like if we could, which if we chose to do it, but it's a projection, if we looked into the IM and say, here's potentially what we're opening up. But it's just a different projection. It's very accurate what we did. So
I think the terrain and the side stuff, it's gonna be a little bit.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
it's challenging. I know.
Well, it's good they're talking with GOSA and all the folks that have
Yeah.
the stake in the place.
But eventually, I think, and discussed this with Deb a couple times, a lot of towns are starting to host a development map
Hmm.
on their website. And I think this is a good first exercise to start thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
To
Well,
be a little bit-
whoever did the write-up that describes all of the projects going on, that's on, I think it's on the website, right?
Yeah, it's on.
It's on-
it- on
And
the
online
calendar,
too.
yeah.
But it was also, because the state of Connecticut, I know Shannon and I went through some of that training. I don't know who else was on that call. And they're looking into analytics and their analytics are old, And so I thought the representation of where Groton is, it was much better, much more precise than what you showed in what the write-up is. That's what we need. And maybe then get to some of the same analytics that Shannon and I saw that the state's doing and mirror that, but ours is way better than that.
Mm.
So that's my belief.
A lot of
Yeah.
census data
Yeah.
and town data around housing.
Hmm.
That, we can use internally or
Sure.
then externally, I think that probably use it in the community
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, I think it's very helpful, but it would be nice, I mean, you can't do it. But like if you could put, because I know that Lauren were here, she's suggested, and I don't even know that this area by the base is getting, that's what her take is that there's a lot of stuff going on up
Well,
there, and it might just be Triton.
You can see that from the
Yeah, you
neighborhood
can see it
map.
right there.
And we chose to do that rather than voting districts because you don't.
Oh, yeah, no, when she even
Like-
said, I don't even know where the
Yeah.
voting
Yeah.
districts
Yeah,
are.
exactly. But,
Yeah.
but the neighborhoods kind of give you an idea of where we're seeing development pressure, for housing. And the spreadsheet that was included in your packet, there's a column there for whether building permits have been issued, so you
Ah,
can use
great.
that to know, okay, you know, is it under construction? Is it
Yeah.
not, you know, okay, it was 2018 and it
Mhm.
hasn't gotten a building permit yet, maybe it won't happen.
So that's approved,
Period,
approved.
Yeah.
right,
And again, the only ones that I didn't show were, you know, subdivisions that resulted in X amount of lots. I only showed in table the number that have had permits, building permits. Because it's a lot,
Yep.
it's not.
Oh, definitely. No,
Okay.
yep, that makes sense. And this is an Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you
And,
mind?
and I just want to mention too, so if you look at that Excel spreadsheet,
Uh-huh.
I think it's got, what is it, resident, what's the designation for, Fairview, remember we changed? the
oh, yeah,
age
yeah, yeah,
restricted?
age restricted, and
restricted.
yes, it
So I
says
changed-
residential life care, I think, on
Yeah,
there, yeah.
residential
Original
life
care
care, but also
facility.
gardens, I think's on there as multifamily,
Hmm.
and that's age restricted, so I just placed those all in this category of age
Yeah.
restricted.
Okay.
As simple as possible.
Okay, yep,
Yeah, but
Makes
we
sense.
plan to keep that up to date,
uh-huh,
so.
I guess like, it would be nice to be able to see layers, right? So where you could have like parks and then, bus
Yeah.
routes and, so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
You could make 'em
I'd
really
like to
busy
see this
now.
on the town website.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Yeah.
saying is that how on our GIS, we can do that, you know, is
Yeah.
to see where, because it's important that for me, where these things are built should be, you know, we're trying to create a downtown, or we're trying to create the node at the you know, at Center Groton or wherever else it is, and that are those things there already, or do we need to start thinking about sidewalks in this area, or there's not enough parks or playgrounds in this area, and maybe we should like, you know, we see housing going in here, and maybe that's where we should be doing these other things, would just be,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to give you work, but
No, no, no.
It's just something
I
to-
think if you guys want to take a really strategic approach to zoning or any kind of change, it would make sense to integrate different layers. Again, for the readability of this, I just kept it as simple as possible.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that, the GIS system that we have, you can create any of that, right?
Yeah, I work with Noah all the time,
Yeah.
passing on layers. This is a new layer, right? This point data showing,
Okay.
housing, permitted housing, that I put together, that's not on our website, right? And like I was saying.
Because I mean, years ago, we were talking about making density, you know, overlays, transparent density overlays. And then showing where schools are, and it's like, you know, why are we putting a school over there when 90% of the
Because that's
population,
where we
you
own a
know,
piece of land.
it would just,
Yeah.
you know,
that's exactly
There's
right.
like
Right.
structural problems.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
estimate density. You know, it's something we could do with permitted units, because we know exactly what's there, but in terms of even tax assessor data.
Yeah.
We don't always know exactly how many units are in a building, and then are you calculating density at a parcel level, neighborhood level, what have you?
Yeah.
It just kind of asks a lot of questions, and so.
Actually, for this one in particular, though, if you know how many people are each one of those dots. If this,
Yeah.
for a visual, the size of the dot.
Bigger dot.
Yeah.
you know?
That's how we.
Around-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Doing like at a parcel
Yeah,
level, showing density as
Yeah.
a color scale or something like that, it's still possible.
It just got busy and
Yeah, it
started
would've-
generating questions.
With some of the ADU parcels
Yeah.
and things like that, it would have been nearly impossible to see, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
10,000 square
Over
foot
here, yeah.
parcel on a map
Right.
that shows the entire town. It's not.
Well, happily, the ADUs were never going to get very big because they're just ADUs. So,
Are we seeing like a demand for that at some?
ADUs.
Yeah.
10 a year, maybe.
Yeah.
There's,
A lot of attached
Yeah.
ADUs for people's parents. who
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
home, not so many detached.
Yeah.
But
some.
But it's cost.
Yep.
Yeah,
Really
it's
comes down to cost.
expensive.
150, 200,000 for attached ADU. Yeah,
So, yeah, it's.
and then.
More for
depending on-
more for separate.
Exactly,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
I have a guest cottage, they say would almost cost $500,000 to build today.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, but you're renting it, so it's kind of, well.
Yeah,
anyway.
well, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe not.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's cheaper than building a whole new house on a separate parcel.
That's true.
but
Usually.
still, it's a good deal of money to,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not an easy solution, an easy, cheap solution. How's that?
Mm. Yeah, great. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Very appreciated, Bryce.
Okay, next on the agenda is referrals.
Right, okay, so the first one is a map amendment from Stonington. They're looking to rezone an area along their coast. That I guess was originally meant to protect natural resources. The area that they're looking at, they represent, there are no natural resources there. It is fully developed.
Right,
Don't think, it's over at Lord's Point. I don't think there's any impact for Groton.
right. Is everybody agreeing? Questions, problems? Okay. And then the next one, Old Mystic Fire Department.
Right, I think you've seen this one before. A couple of
Mm.
years ago, they had another special permit application over there. This one is just for rescue training. I think the idea of doing burning training was what made them withdraw their application.
Mm.
They are no longer proposing that.
Okay, any problems, questions? Okay,
No comment.
No comment.
great. Thank you very much. Now finally, we have a report of chair.
We already did all that.
Oh, we did that right now when we did, didn't we? Report of staff.
I don't really have anything other than obviously the training is this Thursday, the mandatory training. You'll probably see some of us online as well.
Yeah,
On
it's
there, yeah.
hybrid, which is great.
It is
So,
hybrid, yeah,
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
right,
that's super.
that's right.
Okay, well, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Hope you guys enjoy.
Second.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay,
We're done.
thank you very much.
All those things.
Thank you very